Welcome, 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 everybody. A little late tonight because I was waiting on our friends to join us. Hat guy apparently is sick, or his son is sick, and he's taking care of him. So no hat guy, but TJ's with us tonight. Say hello, TJ.
Hello, TJ. Oh, wait, never mind. There we go.
I'm Chris, and you are watching US Fan TV, your friendliest place for US soccer coverage. Tonight, we're going to talk about practice beginning for the national team under new coach Greg Berhalter. Tata Martino officially being named the head coach of Mexico. Chris Richards joining officially with Bayern Munich. Josh Wolf being named an assistant. We've got some additional games for the U.S. already lined up in March. And the coaches convention going on in Chicago. But I think we should probably kick off with the thing that is, I suppose, most or is closest to our general talk here, and that is the new team under our new coach in the new year. Practice started Monday for the national team under Greg Berhalter. He says this entire set of this entire month of practice or weeks of practice and games this month will be about team cohesion. He's got everybody living and eating and working together for the next 2 weeks in San Diego. Supposedly they're even living like dorm style and everything. Uh, the idea under him is that he wants to build um, a tight knit, a real team. Which I don't know about you, TJ, but that sounds like good news to me, considering we're effectively starting from scratch here. I mean, granted, Michael Bradley's part of the group, and someone did the math. I read this somewhere. Bradley has five more national team caps under his belt than the entire rest of the team put together.
So, well, my first thought after you've given me that stat is if DeMarcus Beasley was there, he would have more than everybody, including Michael Bradley in there.
pretty,
Of course, then again,
pretty much.
DeMarcus Beasley is going to go to Qatar anyway. So, um,
You have
you
to
know what?
ask, why isn't he there?
That's true. I guess my initial thought, I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, this is a team that really wasn't much of a team at the end of the qualifying cycle last time around. They tolerated each other, but that was really about it. So to see an idea like that, is it novel? No, it's pretty common, but with as bad as the chemistry was seemingly and what's come out subsequent to the World Cup qualifier, the end of the qualifying cycle, this is necessary. And if, you know, and it seems like Berhalter's such a detail oriented person. I think he feels this is an important step, and I don't necessarily disagree. It's not a novel idea, though, but I think it's a decent one at that, especially seeing some of these guys never lived in the dorms, so this is new for them. So,
Yeah, some of them never made it to college.
so do we officially just want to put it out there that Hackeye is not on strike? We just think he's actually butthurt because the show that you and I did for Minivan Dad Pod has exceeded the
Oh
number of
yeah,
listeners that.
true. I didn't note you as head of Minivan Dad Soccer Pod tonight.
But I think that's the reason where Hackeye he's off pouting because the show with Chris exceeded
He's
the one with him,
sad,
so
sad
he's
hat
sad.
guy. Another thing, apparently Berhalter has said that he wants a deeper connection with players' clubs in hopes that he can get more detailed info on their, daily conditioning, their form, whatever. I'm curious, since realistically you can't follow everyone, does this mean that he might be looking at winnowing the field down to maybe a standard 15 to 20 guys that we might actually have an idea of kind of who our, say, 23 are on a regular basis going forward?
So you kind of feeling like this is um what is it, another miracle with Herb Brooks where he names the team like that many years out or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I feel like he's just everything I've gathered and just in people who seem to know followed him with the crew and whatever. He is a details guy. He gets into the weeds on this stuff. So considering he can't be around them all the time, he's going to get every bit of data he can. If that means stuff from, a deeper connection with the clubs, he just wants to know what they're doing so he knows how he can prep himself. Because it's the one thing like I said, I kept reading is he was prepared. He was always prepared for everything. It wasn't something he took lightly. So I could see why that would be important for him. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
zero anonymity. I am bringing sexy back. Um, another
And he's
thing.
also and Vanilla Ice. If you took the hat off, you go Vanilla Ice on us.
um, yeah, if I don't remember if it made the show last time when we were talking about that. I did. I actually saw Vanilla Ice in concert when I was a teenager. Vanilla Ice, MC Hammer, and En Vogue all together in one show. Anyway,
That's probably
um,
not the worst show you've ever seen.
um, Berhalter also says he wants a pressing, attack-oriented style of play.
Yeah, so
Klinsmann,
did Jurgen Klinsmann.
I was just about to say, Klinsmann wanted that too. Are we ready to say that it was just Klinsmann, or that maybe the players aren't ready to play that style, or is there reason to believe Berhalter is confident that maybe the players are starting to be ready to play that style?
I think it's a combination of both. The players Klinsmann had clearly were not capable of playing that style of play. Also, realistically, once he found out the World Cup group he was going in, that group, the group of death, if you want to call it that, it was the group of very difficult at the very least, didn't lend itself to being able to play that kind of style. So you stop, especially once you know that, you start training for that style. The fact that these guys, the Berhalter's inheriting, especially these young guys, there is a better chance that they can do that because they're going to be more versed in that style of play ahead of time and not trying to make an adjustment on the fly or whatever. So yeah, I think I think realistically it won't happen though.
Yeah, it's certainly going to depend on the opponent. We were kind of getting to the point where we probably could have done it and should have done it more often against some of our CONCACAF opponents. Sure, not Mexico, probably not Costa Rica, but in many cases beyond that, within CONCACAF, you're probably going to have the bulk of the possession. You might as well have a style that accepts it rather than trying to kind of play a long ball counterattacking style when, if you've got 65 to 70% of the possession, the other team's going to sit back and wait for you. There's no use in just booting the ball around amongst yourselves in kind of your final third.
And maybe that's one of the trappings of CONCACAF in and of itself is you have, or maybe it should in theory set them up better for the World Cup is you have to be able to, like when you play Mexico and especially at Costa Rica, you can't play that pressing style. You do have to play counter ball, which when you get to the World Cup, most likely you're going to have to do versus the rest of CONCACAF. Yeah, you do have to come out and press a bit. So I guess, I don't know. This is a whole lot of, I'll believe it when I see it, but I'm not against it. I'll believe it when I see it if it actually works.
No, that's fair. I guess that was kind of my joke too. We've heard this before. We've yet to truly see it in action, but Zach Steffen is most likely our keeper going forward, at least for the foreseeable future. And Berhalter is on the record as saying that he believes he's a good goalie for that. He can play with his feet. You would tend to think he's going to build a team sort of like the teams we've seen him have before. There's a likelihood that some of this might actually come to fruition, and I think it is. One of my arguments over the last year and a half, whatever it's been, about kind of who our coach should be for the future was, do we start looking at the different style of play or the different capabilities that these younger players have? That maybe we don't need the same kind of coach who would have led our team in the most recent Bruce Arena era. The players in this group are different. They are more technical. They are, I don't know if you could say they're all faster, but they're youth wise, they're probably naturally faster. But they tend to have some capabilities that that I don't think there was as much of an abundance of in the last group. So we'll see. I'm not ready to totally believe it, but I think maybe it's finally a chance. Speaking of other things with the national team, Josh Wolf was named an assistant. He'd been an assistant with the crew anyway under Berhalter. He'd also recently served as like a special assistant with Dave Sarakin. So it's not unheard of to see that happen. Um, Chile and Ecuador, we have games against them now, not officially announced, but Yahoo Sports has announced them. Ecuador on March 21st, 22nd in Orlando, and Chile on the 26th in Houston. They'll both be during the FIFA break, so presumably that'll be the first look at maybe the full squad under Greg Berhalter. But
I
my,
doubt.
my take, what's that?
I was going to say I doubt it'll even be that full of a squad. You're not
Probably
going to.
not, but
You're probably not going to pull a bunch of the guys from Europe. You might pull a few, but you're not going to pull them all over.
you might see Pulisic and McKinney. I would assume you'll see Pulisic right now because of the fact that he's moving on anyway. Bayern's not going to be as set on keeping him in place when one, they kind of have his replacement already in their lineup, and two, um, you know, if he gets hurt, if it becomes a really tight title race, maybe they'll any kind of like small injury might be a reason to stay behind. But I would tend to think this is probably the chance to get him. I don't know that we'll see Josh Sargent, perhaps, for a guy who's still kind of in and out of the lineup. I don't know that we'd necessarily see him. You may see him stick with Bremen to focus on getting a more central role or more consistent starting role or more consistent playing role. So maybe that. But anyway, it is the first opportunity to get the real lineup in. And on the whole, I have to say they're both pretty strong teams. I mean, Chile did win the two most recent Copa Americas. They destroyed Mexico in one of them, as we might remember. But they're both strong teams, and it's nice to see the U.S. take a challenge up that isn't just a European team.
No, and it's almost as if they're, especially as they bring in more of the South American teams, it's that I want to say they're trying to forego the financial over everything. And Christian, yes, Chris did say Bayern. That might be a slip, but
Oh, did I? I'm
you
sorry,
did.
I meant to say Dortmund.
Well,
I,
but
I was reading Bayern in my other notes.
The fact that we constantly joke about Dortmund being a Bayern farm team, although they are ahead of them this year, I guess it kind of worked. But yeah, I'm good with these. I think it's a good test and good indication to see where things are going. I'll be curious to see if the pressing style makes an appearance, especially against Chile.
Oh yeah,
I think it won't. But if you're going to try it, that's the type of games you take your chances on.
Yeah.
So,
and, if we could start getting some results against South American teams on a consistent basis, that's certainly a sign that the team is moving up. And with kind of the up and down nature of the team, which is somewhat to do with youth, but somewhat, well, maybe there are a lot of reasons. But the kind of up and down nature of the team over the last year and a half, you want to see as many challenges because you want to put the players in as many, hard opportunities as possible while they're growing, and hopefully you see some improvement, especially when you figure that we've got the Gold Cup coming up, which sure it's the Gold Cup, but it's something, and then not too distant following that, you'll have the World Cup qualifying begin.
I'm going to take this off the rails a little bit because I feel like I need to at this point, in the sense of, you talk about the Gold Cup. Is winning the Gold Cup as a U.S. fan better or worse than winning the FA Cup as an Arsenal fan?
Well, I guess I would say I would count it somewhat similarly to how I did on the Minivan Dad Soccer Pod the other day, which is that you are, through most of maybe the year, it's kind of meaningless. It meant something once upon a time. It's become kind of meaningless, but it's nice to win it in the end. So you certainly want the trophy, if nothing else. By the time you reach kind of the semifinals or so, it sort of becomes important again. The Gold Cup certainly isn't the sort of storied tournament that the FA Cup was in England. But at this point, they're both, well, I guess back to my to what I was saying there. The Gold Cup didn't, while it kind of came out of thin air, it was just a fat soccer Satan tournament made up to grab some cash. It did become a way for our team to play sort of meaningful-ish games at a time when we weren't getting a lot and our team wasn't truly professional. So it grew to mean something. Beating Brazil, beating Mexico over and over, it has come to mean something. It is another chance to see us challenge Mexico for something, which is always a plus. That said, it's a lot of crap games, kind of like the FA Cup. But in the end, if you win it,
I guess the one thing I kind of like, for lack, I don't know if like is the right word about the Gold Cup, is I feel like the U.S. and Mexico, I almost feel like they plan accordingly. Hey, we're going to bring our B side. What are you guys bringing this time? I don't feel like one team brings like its A team and the other team brings a C team. It's usually like, it's almost like they compare notes. Hey, we're going to bring a B, C type squad, and then Mexico seems to, or we're going to bring a lot of young guys. I think the other part of it is with the Gold Cup, it allows us to cap tie guys. It actually that's about the redeeming quality of it in that sense. But I was just kind of curious because they do seem like similar competitions, and you nailed it in the fact that, hey, the later rounds, it matters. And especially I think the FA Cup, I guess, maybe has the advantage of, by the time you're getting to the last rounds of it, if you're going to win the league or not, or have a chance. So maybe that's what you're playing for at that point. So
no, that's absolutely true. As an Arsenal fan, I'm pulling for Europa League and the FA Cup at this point. Those are about our only hopes. I don't think there's I don't even think there's a realistic shot at Champions League this season, especially considering Unai Emery came out today to say that there is no money at all to spend on new players in January, that the only hope for additions to the squad will come through loans. There's not a lot left to play for Arsenal, so I'm hoping for the two things that maybe we have an actual shot at.
I guess it's reality. So
the league is gone. We're not mathematically eliminated, but we are eliminated.
You're mathematically eliminated because reality.
Reality
is you still got to play some really good teams again. Yeah. All right. So what else was on there?
While we're speaking of Mexico, Tata Martino officially was announced as Mexico's coach this past just a few days ago.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Because we discussed it on when we recorded, so the other night.
It's interesting. Some of the questions around some of the media questions of him show kind of what Mexicans think of their national team, which we're guilty of it too. But that they totally they think they're the greatest thing ever. How soon to win the World Cup effectively? I have to say that he had some good answers. Not that he's looking at winning a World Cup, but that he expects a respectable showing. He expects them to do well, and that they have a lot of good players in place. It was kind of all the right things for a new coach to say, and I tend to think he's a guy who has he has enough experience with the I don't know, boiling kettle that is Mexican soccer media. Maybe he'll actually be able to handle it.
He might be the first, although if he can handle it better than some of the guys of the past who came out of Liga MX, is just like, seriously, how do those guys not handle it? But maybe you're right. The national team is a different thing, but I suppose if you can handle the media around Barcelona, the Mexican media, but can he handle the clubs? that might be the more difficult. That, balancing the politics of the club owners might be a different game, but I mean, Tata Martino's an amazing manager. I no problem, no doubts he's going to do well there, and I don't blame him for going. I don't blame him for any of the steps he's taken. So I mean, I guess I don't really have a lot with that because it was a good move for Mexico. It was a good move for him. I don't blame him. So
Yeah, I mean, as much as I'm pretty outspoken in my feelings about Mexico and like to trash them. I can't disagree with hiring Tata Martino. It does seem like a good move for them. And you know, my feeling is he's a guy who might actually be able to tolerate the circus that kind of revolves around their national team.
but and Christian's like, and we have Berhalter with a sad face. I'm not. You're down on Berhalter, and I get it. He's not Mr. Excitement. But again, as we were talking about earlier, I'm pretty darn sure for what he's going to have to face, I still think he was the best fit for it. He understands where he has to get data from, additional data from the clubs, because all these guys aren't necessarily going to be starting for their club teams or featuring. So he's got to look at how they're doing in practice. It sounds like he's already trying to build cohesion within the style, which was non-existent under Bruce and at the end of after they all quit on Jurgen Klinsmann. So I think Berhalter, and I've said this before, I've been a big defender of Berhalter, admittedly so, because I think he is very qualified. I think he's going to be for the U.S. national team and for what it needs right now, I think he is a better fit than Tata Martino would have been. Not saying he's tactically better. I think overall, and understanding the mentality that he has to rebuild after what happened, I think he is overall a better fit, and he understands some of the mentality he has to inject into that squad, as opposed to Tata Martino going to Mexico, which is more of a ready-made squad that doesn't need the psych element as much as, at least to the player level, as the U.S. national team does.
Yeah, no, that's probably fair. Um, I see something about pork pies being the bomb. I don't. I missed some. I missed some comments there, so I don't. Not sure. Not sure what that's all about. So I'll let that go. Um, while we were talking about Josh Wolf played in Chicago for the Fire when they were good. And speaking of Chicago, this week there is the United Soccer Coaches Convention going on. The MLS draft will take place as part of that tomorrow, beginning at noon. Anybody going?
No, Hack Guy and I were talking about going, so we'll see. If we go, we'll definitely make sure we let everybody know via at US Fan TV and
You'll
at
have to wear your
Van.
shirts or something too.
Yeah, no, that probably won't happen. But
I think you should.
Minivan Dad
Like,
Pod. So
I've told him to if he goes to try and get some interviews, see if he can grab anybody. I don't know if I will make it, especially if it's snowing on Saturday too. Um, I think it may not fit into my schedule this weekend, but we'll see.
we're still
But
we're still in
yeah,
we're still in the planning stages on that one. We talked about it a little bit today, but it's still more. I think he's still not even sure. I think he was checking to see if I could go before he went to ask if he could get permission to go.
yeah,
Kind of moment. So,
um, yeah. So if anybody's going, look for members of US Fan TV and say hello. Uh, other things we have to talk about. Chris Richards officially joined Bayern Munich this week. Um, Celtic has signed Andrew Gutman and Tim Weah. I can't remember if we talked about Tim Weah previously.
I think we did touch on Tim Weah last week. We didn't. There wasn't a lot to say. I think it's a decent. If he gets minutes, it's a decent move for him.
Matt Polster may go to Rangers, so there may be some very American activity in Old Firm matches going forward. Speaking of Bayern, and this time I do mean to say Bayern, Callum Hudson-Odoi is rumored to be going to sign with Bayern from Chelsea. What this brings up to me is Chelsea seems to be moving out their wingers. There's the chance that Willian or Victor Moses could move in January. At least, like there's a good chance I think that one of them could go. I don't think it'll be Pedro, since while he is, I think he's the oldest of all of them. He did just sign a new contract, so I don't think that's happening. Hazard is always rumored to be going to Real Madrid, but I'm just going to ignore that one because the guy's on a different level. My point to all this is they seem to be moving out wingers at the same time they just signed a certain winger that we all happen to be. I think we're safe in saying we all happen to be fans of. Um, is this good news for Christian Pulisic?
Well, like again, I think we discussed when we discussed this the other, when he first made the move. You don't, if you're going to spend that kind of money, you're not going to spend it to bury him on the bench. You're going to give him opportunities, and so yeah, you're going to clear some spots out. Number one, because you need, in theory, to stay on the right side of the financial fair play. If you're going to bring in that kind of contract, you have to theoretically offset some of that. I get it. Chelsea has Russian money, so they don't necessarily need to from a profit perspective, but to stay on the right side of financial fair play, which seemingly slowly they're starting to tighten the screws a little bit on that. Yeah, you're going to clear some players out. You're not going to spend that kind of money to bury him or to send him out on loan. I get it. He's 20 years old and Chelsea likes to send people out on loan for that kind of money. Again, top 10 signing, transfer for the Premier League ever in terms of money. He's going to get his chances. If he can play, he's getting his chances.
No, I think you're exactly right. I'm just curious. They're doing it. They seem to be moving these guys out now when, granted, they have like 5 wingers or something in there. They can only play 2 of them, and the 2. Like I mentioned about Hazard, I sort of like don't even count him as a winger because he has such kind of a free role. Like, is he a striker? Is he a winger? Is he, I don't know, central attacking player? Like, he's so many things in their offense that I find it unfair to kind of characterize him as one position. So I don't, and again, he's just so much better than everyone that I don't like kind of lumping him into this conversation. But there aren't a lot of positions for them to slot wingers into. So I understand why they're moving people, but I don't know. It just there's a lot, and there's a lot of time. I mean, there's the rest of this transfer window, then there's the summer, so there's still plenty of time for other things to happen. But when they just signed Pulisic, and then to see this happening, it is, I guess you could say, promising. Is he a false nine? I would probably call him a false nine, Christian. It's probably fair.
Oh, Eden Hazard.
Yeah,
Eden Hazard's whatever he wants to be at the moment he wants to be, because like you said, he's on. I mean, he's a top 10, maybe top 5 player in the world. He is whatever he wants to be at that moment. And I'm going to say, I think Hazard at the end of this winds up at Barcelona. I don't know why. Something just tells me I think because of the entertainment value of Barcelona will steal him from Madrid.
I could see it. I don't know where he'd fit. It's not like he's going to take Messi's spot. I don't think he could take Suarez's spot. You could slot him on a wing, but like, there's so many good players there that it's like, God, who does he knock out there? Does he knock out Coutinho? Does he become a guy off the bench for them? Which is also like, really, you'd have him on the bench? Like, he's not. He's not far enough back. They're going to keep somebody like Rakitic in or something, So like, anyway, whatever. It makes sense for him to move to Real Madrid, especially without Ronaldo there. That said, too, like, man, what I'm kind of surprised Real hasn't made like a big splash for somebody. I was surprised when Ronaldo moved that they didn't turn around and just like, write a blank check to get some huge name in. I'm a little surprised they haven't done anything yet really in this window to like blow up on someone. But who knows? Whatever.
It's Real Madrid. I don't feel bad for him, and nor do I really care.
I don't either. It says Art a goalkeeper.
Yeah, they could use. Well.
Now, Gabriel, I will say you got one striker I'm a fan of. A certain man with a beard and a large French nose.
It's true.
Giroud has the best song ever. Or at least it's at least like I've spoken highly of my love for the Yaya and Kolo Toure song, as I think that was just an excellent song. I wish that like Arsenal had brought them in, or truly had them at any one point, or that they had played together at more times in their history, so that song could exist more often, because I just think that song was awesome. The Giroud "Hey Jude" song is like right up there. That I miss Giroud largely for that song.
That's really a sad state of where you're
I
at with
don't care.
Arsenal
It
these
was a
days.
fun song. The dude scored good goals. He just didn't really fit with the rest of the team. Like he was too slow for the kind of team that we had. Like I understood why he had to go, but it was unfortunate because and oh while I'm off the rails on Giroud, I will say he runs faster when he jogs. I swear to God, I've watched this. I figured this out. When he jogs, he takes steps like a 6-foot tall man. When he sprints, he takes like tiny steps. His footsteps are like 6 inches, like probably not even. It's like 2 or 3 inches. It's like bing, 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 bing. So he takes like 40 steps to run like 2 feet. But when he jogs, he covers that in like 1 step. I swear to God, he runs faster when he jogs. Watch him. It's true.
And Robert, as for Pat recovering after the Bears loss, probably not. But
Pat had pretty much given up on the Bears a few years ago. Like I don't even think he was watching them anymore. He was just like, yeah, I don't even care anymore. He was a little more into it this season. I could tell by things he was tweeting and saying, but yeah, he's not the diehard fan he once was.
And frankly, if that's what he has to go home and pout about it, I don't care. I mean, I get it. As a Bears fan, it's your one chance every 5 to 10 years that you're good. So I got it. But so Ramsey to Juventus. You're the Arsenal guy, so
thoughts on it?
I don't care. Good for him, I guess.
I wish he wasn't leaving. I wish there was some way Arsenal could still bring in a contract and get him to sign. I would rather sell Ozil. I would sell Ozil in a heartbeat and keep him. Some of that may go back to my feelings about Ozil. If you want to know more, go listen to my talk with TJ on the Minivan Dad Soccer Pod, because I went into why I don't feel Ozil is a good fit for Arsenal and why I feel like why I used to feel like Alexis should have been the player to stay there, and Ozil should have been the one to ship out. Ramsey, I was never my take on Ramsey, and I'll go back a number of years. Ramsey versus Jack Wilshere, I used to feel like they were kind of the same player, and they were not just in sort of style of play, but also in kind of where they wanted to play and how they wanted to play, and in their injury problems. And so I remember having this conversation, at least with Pat, but I know with other people too, that we should just pick one. And even if you just kind of go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, you just pick one and you go with it. And if you happen to pick the right one, hooray. If you pick the wrong one, well, that sucks, but you just didn't have good luck that time. Pick one, sell the other. I think when I was saying that at the time, Wilshere seemed to be the one who was more healthy. So I was like, yeah, go ahead and sell Ramsey. It turned out the other way around. At this point, like 2 years ago, I would have been on board with selling Ramsey. Right now, I feel like I don't know how Arsenal can replace him. We certainly won't spend the kind of money it will take to replace him with a player of similar quality. And he offers more to the team than Ozil does. I'm not going to argue about who's like the more skilled player and things. If you want to listen to my argument about that, go listen to the Minivan Dad Soccer Pod. But I would rather have Ramsey than Ozil right now, and I would rather we sold Ozil like tomorrow and found a new way to, if that deal is not already signed in blood, tear that contract up and have him stay at Arsenal.
In anonymity, it might be a shameless podcast promotion, but it was an hour-long conversation about a whole lot of stuff. So, I mean, realistically, as much as it might be a shameless plug, we covered a ton of different things, so it's always.
I went pretty deep on my discussions about
You
Arsenal
did. You
and
did.
kind of my thoughts on some of the players. I touched on Alexis Sanchez and why I felt like he was the perfect fit for Arsenal. Back then, I wanted him to stay. I wanted us to get rid of Ozil. I talked about Ozil. I talked about Ramsey, I think. Whatever. Check it out.
Will Trapp going to Europe? If he plays good, it's the same with any of these guys. They have to play. They have to feature. They have to be, and as much as people will sit there and say Polster to Rangers and Gutman to Celtic and Weah to Celtic, these are great moves. They're good. Weah's is good because he's going to get minutes. But Celtic, other than when they play Rangers and maybe, I don't know. I'm not high in the Scottish League.
Yeah,
the top of the Scottish League. The top of the Scottish League is better than MLS. No question about it.
Those two teams, sure. Those two teams are the two to be with if you're going to be in the Scottish League. And those two teams could probably go play in the Premier League oftentimes.
But the bottom of the Scottish Premier League,
it's a bit like the bottom of the Spanish League or something, where it's like they're just also Rands.
Really, the Bundesliga and the Premier League are the only ones top to bottom, and even the bottom of the Bundesliga. I mean, it's still very good by all means, but it's not.
At least the Bundesliga, because they do work in so many young guys.
True.
There are more chances for like a bottom dwelling team to beat a top tier team. It's a little more wide open. You're not going to see stuff like that. Only very rarely are you going to see that in a lot of other leagues, particularly like Spain and probably Portugal. Italy, it's rigged anyway, so whatever.
It's Juventus and speaking of Italy, I guess this, I don't know if this is a U.S. soccer thing, that they have subpoenaed DNA from one Cristiano Ronaldo. The rapist may come to justice yet. So, anonymity. Once beIN Sport went off Uverse, nope, wasn't watching the La Liga anymore. Blame beIN Sport and Uverse for not getting along.
Yeah, that sucks. I was not happy about that. I missed who somebody said Trapp seems like somebody who'd go to the championship. Oh, TJ Reed said Trapp seems like a player who'd go to the championship on a boring team that come up to the Premier League when he's like 28. Yeah, that's probably fair.
Yeah.
That said, he's nearing 28. He's getting close to 26. I think he's about to turn 26. So,
yeah, that's true.
Like my issue with him, he's a fine player. He is kind of a boring player, I guess. And, the same could be said largely of Michael Bradley, except Bradley had like the potential to do things offensively. It just kind of came in spurts or only at certain times. Like he was kind of reined in because he was trying to, be captain. He was trying to be serious. He was trying to be the guy, and maybe because he was also playing alongside Walkabout Jermaine. Trapp is like the boring parts of Michael Bradley without the potential for the more exciting parts. And that's where maybe going to Europe helps him. Maybe it helps him make decisions faster, so he, moves into things and recognizes certain things sooner. Then sure, that's great. But I don't see him stepping into like he's not going to go anywhere great, would be my opinion. He is I think a championship side is probably a fair move for him.
Yeah, I can't argue that, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think if he, again, same concept, got to be getting minutes. So anyway, transfer rumor Michael Bradley. I did see that, and yes, Robert, I laughed as well. I don't think Everton wants anything to do with Michael Bradley, although it would be an Evertonian type
That
thing
was
to
like
do.
some Italian. Wasn't that like? It all goes back to like one tweet from some dude in Italy or something who doesn't cite it and doesn't give a link to anything and doesn't say what the source is. Like, I think it's all crap.
No, and Christian nailed it on Trapp. MLS is a very good MLS player. Christian, I think you're right. That is about Will Trapp's ceiling, which puts him in my opinion, in the championship. And a team that might come up, might not. Yeah, he's not going to go to the Premier. He's not going to go up in the Premier League, and at least I don't think so.
When will we all drink Lagavulin? I know where to drink it. Actually, my dad has a ton of it, but my parents are nowhere near. I do know a place that has a ton of a scotch to go to if I want to go drink that after a U.S. soccer win.
No, Trapp is not like Yedlin. Yedlin's still what? Is he still only 23 or 24 though?
He's still pretty young. I mean, granted, he's getting older, but when you think about it, it's only a couple years younger than Trapp.
Yedlin's speed is such a difference.
Yeah, Yedlin's speed allows him to overcome other deficiencies in his play, and it does make for like part of the reason he's been picked by teams isn't really so he can go be a defender. It's more so he can be like a wing player and like those overlapping runs he can make out of midfield. Granted, you don't see a ton of that at Newcastle because they're just such crap. But like, put him in a team where like a midfielder could actually kind of hold the ball for a minute, and or they weren't just like watching the other team just like run through them like a sieve or something. Where you had more opportunities for him to attack, I think a lot of people would look at him differently. Because then he turns into like an Olympic level sprinter, basically chasing down balls or just outrunning your midfield. And how do you stop that? It's awfully damn hard. T. Gill, I think you said you're at SC Waukesha, New Berlin. I was actually a coach at SC Waukesha, like when it was formed. God, what was that? 10, 15 years ago? 15?
I don't know because I played with Spring City. I mean, that's how far back I go. So.
Yeah.
Yedlin's 25, by the way.
No, he's older than I thought.
Yeah, I guess so.
Man. It's hard to believe he's that old now.
And so is Will Trapp, actually.
Kyle Walker said he's better than Messi and Ronaldo. Do we know what he said he was better at, though?
Will Trapp's about 6 months older, so I guess they are about the same age. Yeah. So, let's see. Kyle Walker said he's better than Messi.
Has something to prove to Berhalter that he still belongs. I think Bradley is there because Berhalter's trying to set some of the like expectations or whatever, like help younger players understand. I think he's more there as like a locker room guy and as a presence.
When you think of somebody who's studied the game and knows the game inside and out, pays attention to details within the game,
player coach.
Exactly. And Michael Bradley might be as good as it gets in that sense of who's available and could fill that role. Robert keeps asking, when will we be drinking out of a minivan dad mug? Anybody who knows me, when it comes to drinking beer, scotch, I don't waste time on it because if you want to see me throw up, give me scotch. If you want to see me drink beer, I don't like wasting glasses. I think it's a waste of time. The bottle or the can is fine. I'm too much of a hick for that to get a glass just to promote something or anything like that. Besides, got to get more listeners before I would even consider doing something like that anyway. So, although the logo for something that we were going to dump right away, it's turned pretty good. So, there's that.
I made that up in about 5 minutes or something like that.
I know, and now I'm too late. Well, I still haven't gotten my sister-in-law's graphic design on it, but it works. Nobody listens. Nobody cares.
Sandra, no. Ronaldo is not better than Messi. No.
Nope. Wrong show for that one. Wrong show.
I don't even just believe that is my adoration of Messi. I just simply look at it as that dude does things no one else can do. That guy is incredible.
Would it be?
Not to
And
say
Chris,
that Ronaldo's not also incredible. Ronaldo's pretty amazing. And hey, I'll give another plug to the Minivan Dad Soccer Pod. I also mentioned I've thought that Ronaldo might be a better player. Like if Arsenal could just sign anyone in the world, I've had the thought that Ronaldo might actually be a better player for Arsenal than Messi would. That said, Messi is still the better player.
that's it. Is that? I mean, you're old enough to remember, Chris. Isn't that kind of like a Lemieux versus Gretzky argument? Lemieux might what Lemieux does is amazing, but Gretzky does things you just don't see anybody doing.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I sorry to go on the hockey part of it, but that's kind of the only comparison I could think of that would be comparable to it.
No, that's
and
fair.
Messi hasn't been arrested or hasn't been accused of raping anybody yet, or admitted to raping anybody yet. And yes, I'm not leaving that one go. Sorry, Sandra.
That's probably fair. Ronaldo's a better athlete. I once heard it described as Ronaldo was if you could take like ultimate ego, ultimate dedication, and ultimate I can't remember what the third was, but it was basically like if you could take all the things that would like drive you to be the best at something that you could be, that's Ronaldo. Like he's the guy who just found a way to harness everything inside him to make him the best player he could be. So he completely maximized his potential. Like he's at 100% of his potential. Messi may not always play at 100% of his potential because he doesn't have that same kind of drive, but his potential is just so far ahead of everyone else's.
Messi sees things. Messi sees things that nobody else sees. He does things that nobody else can do. So,
as I've said many times, when I watch things in slow motion, I still can't figure out how Messi does them. I know how Ronaldo does it. I can't necessarily do it because I haven't trained myself to be able to. Even if I had that potential, I haven't like trained so hard that I can strike that ball like this much difference than that, so that it does this, dips just right, it spins just right, like. But at least I understand how he does it. Messi, I watch it and watch it and watch it, and there are times I can't figure out how the ball gets from one point to another because it doesn't appear that he touches it, but it also appears that it goes right through a defender's leg, and I cannot figure out how he does it. That's I'm simply in awe of that guy. Ronaldo is incredible. Ronaldo's amazing. Ronaldo will go down as probably the second best player I've ever seen play in person. Messi absolutely is number one. I never got to see Maradona play in person. I only ever saw him on TV. Unfortunately.
All right. So what else is on your notepad there?
We have hit the wall on the things I have. We actually managed to pound through this pretty quickly.
Yes.
So, last thoughts? Anything else?
Let's see. No, not a ton of the coaching convention. We'll probably check that out. So hopefully we'll see how that works. I think this week I'm going to have Ben Goshorn, who's the soccer goose on the Minivan Dad pod. He's from the Talking Jacks. So we're going to talk some lower league, probably do a wrap up of the coaches convention and kind of see what happens from there. So that's my shameless plug for this week's show. Finally have to venture outside my comfort zone and get away from interviewing you and Pat when Pat's not pouting about the Bears. So that's what's upcoming on the Minivan Dad pod for those who care. Should have scuffed. What are you trying not to laugh about?
You need to see what Zero Anonymity said about the Portuguese meaning of
narcotic.
Ronaldo's name.
No, let me look it up. You just keep. So what do you?
I remember watching my first professional soccer game in person or on TV. I can't necessarily remember the first one. I remember some of the early ones. Like I can remember watching the '82 World Cup. I know I was watching Brazil because I can now recognize what the colors were. I had no clue really what I was watching at the time. I was like 5 years old. I went to a lot of St. Louis Steamers games for anyone who saw indoor soccer in the like early to mid '80s.
And I'm the only one that franchise needed to move to Cleveland.
The Steamers back then were amazing.
They were.
What happened to them? What happened to that entire league was a little less. So I went to a lot of games back then. Early to mid '80s.
First professional indoor game I can remember, or game I saw in person, would have been the Milwaukee Wave at the auditorium. Not even the arena; it was at the auditorium. That's how far back that goes. Before the Bradley Center, before they moved into either Wisconsin or UWM
Mecca.
Panthers Arena. Yeah. Well, it was the Mecca Auditorium. It was part of the complex.
Yeah.
It was like the 3,000 or 4,000 seat venue. First one I remember on TV was probably, other than indoor, I think it was St. Louis and Dallas on TV. It was on CBS, had it on like Wide World of Sport, or whatever their version of Wild World of Sports was. The '86 World Cup's the first international one I can recall in person. Went to the '94 World Cup in person, and then first top division, first MLS game would have been Chicago Fire. I don't remember who they were playing, but it was Memorial Day weekend of 1998, and the Bodines were playing a concert afterwards. So
yes, as I've noted on the US Fan TV website, TJ told me either after the game had started or after the game ended that he had tickets to the World Cup opener in Detroit, the US Switzerland match.
Nope,
you did. Yes, you did, because we had this talk with my mom afterwards where she was like, "Oh, I would have gone with you guys and gotten a hotel."
We never did. We didn't have Detroit. We had Chicago.
Maybe you said you could have gotten them or something. I don't know.
We could have. Probably. We got.
You were like, we could have gone to this game. I was like, what? You're just telling me this now? Either we were watching the game or it was just after the game. I can't remember if we watched the game together or not. But we got them for Chicago, and my parents wound up going to the Bolivia and Germany game, the opener, and they said I went to the Greece-Hungary. I think that was who it was. I think they were your dad's tickets.
I doubt it. I don't know, because we only had Chicago.
Yeah, no, that was in Chicago. That was at Soldier Field.
We had tickets with models. I went to Germany and Spain, so
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's been a long time. I don't remember. Anyone know the St. Louis Ambush? Yes. My allegiance is to the Steamers, so I don't care as much about them.
This is the Ambush, the current team?
Gold Cup tournament you remember watching? I saw them on TV. Just about as old as they are. In person, I was at most of the 2007 one. I think all of US Fan TV was at the most of the 2007 one, because I didn't go. That's when we were in LA together.
That's right. That was 07, and then I remember 09. Probably not for the same. 09, I remember. At Soldier Field, I met up with you there. That's right. Yeah, I forgot we went out to LA for that one.
Yeah, I think Christian's right. Time to end the show. Yeah. So on that note, any last thoughts, TJ?
Nope. Just keep listening to those who have checked out the Minivan Dad pod. I do appreciate that. Thank you for that. And hopefully we'll go down to the convention and we'll run into some people there or something like that. So, and somebody did ask if they said, "Isn't TJ a quarter Portuguese?" No. My dad's entire side of the family is from Poland. My mom's entire side of the family is from Germany. So I never know whether to attack myself or surrender right away. So it's kind of a catch-22. On that note, I think we're done.
Yes, on that note, thanks, everybody. You are watching US Fan TV. You know where to find us on YouTube, clearly, but we also have a website, usfantv.com. You can also find us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. Pretty much all of those at US Fan TV. Look for us elsewhere. Maybe you'll find us. I'm not going to go into things like Snapchat and back pages and whatever else people suggest. No, we don't have those things. On that note, you're done. Thanks. See you next week.